we're here at Little Crater Lake area of Timothy Lake, doing a approximately 13-mile loop around Timothy Lake here in Mount Hood National Forest. My first time over here, so I'm excited to see this. Kind of an interesting and a very popular lake with 6 or 7 campgrounds around it and a lot of dispersed camping along the trail. Again, this is Mount Hood National Forest. We're just a couple days from the start of the season. Today is May 25th, 2022. So it starts May 27th. Today is Wednesday, it starts on Friday. So we're also right around the time where the snow's melting. The road in was okay, a little bumpy, but still paved to Little Crater Campground. So it'd be interesting to see if there's any snow on the trail, if it's all melted. I think I may have timed this well so that the snow's gone. The geese are definitely active, wishing me a pleasant morning, I like to think. This is going to be fun. I'm excited. Since the season hasn't started, I'm going to have to look out for downed logs. I don't know if this area has been cleared. Unlikely. Maybe they're getting ready for start of the season in a couple days, maybe not. Got to look for flooding. Definitely got to look for bears. Mount Hood National Forest has got a lot of black bears. So, and since it's before the start of the season, there hasn't been people here for a while. So, certainly a recipe for some bear activity. Hopefully, mosquitoes are not going to be active. We'll see. Some of the stuff is, some of these areas are a bit boggy. So, hoping the mosquitoes are still a little early. By June, I know this area would be mosquito-rific, but hoping that I could have just missed it. Look at this. Little Crater Lake. Namesake for the campground I parked at. It's definitely little. I can see why they call it Little Crater Lake. It's kind of an overcast weather right now, so it kind of looks a bit bog pondy. It's barely a lake, keeping it real. Oh, and there's even a little fire. People apparently had a fire next to it. That's probably not advisable. I've seen if you can get it with a blue sky at the time of day when the sun's right above it, it could kind of have some interesting blue teal colors, but right now it is a classic dark murky green brown color. But it's good to see Little Crater Lake. The beauty of this Little Crater Lake was definitely not one of my goals of this hike, keeping it real. I'm actually more excited to go see Timothy Lake, which is huge. This is just kind of a little glorified pond, in my humble opinion. It's funny because the Little Crater thing is actually a bit confusing in this area of Oregon, because this is Little Crater Lake up here at Mount Hood National Forest, at tiny little lake and a campground next to it. We also have Little Crater Campground at Paulina, Newberry National Volcanic Monument, a couple hours south. That's actually one of my favorite campgrounds in the entire state of Oregon. So the whole Little Crater thing is a little confusing when you got two areas that both have Little Crater in them, but I want to walk through that spider web. I'm making sure there wasn't a spider in it. It's kind of an interesting section. Walking on these planks through essentially a bog. Under the right conditions, this would be horrific mosquito-wise, because this is literally the quintessential definition of a mosquito bog, especially with Little Crater Lake there. Right now there's no mosquitoes though, so I may have time to this well. Today again is May 25th, 2022, 2 days before the start of the season, May 27th. Definitely has a swampy feel. Oh goodness. It's like, is this area going to be too flooded to hike? Can make it through this section. Got good Lova boots on. But what's going to happen over here is the better question. Definitely have some flooding. Oh goodness. Well, I'm in a flooded bog. I think I'm gonna turn around and go back to my automobile. Actually, let me see. I might go around here on the side and get a sense. Is this just one little section, or is this gonna be flooded for a while? If this is flooded for a while, I did not bring my flippers. I don't wanna swim through a bog. It is in the 40s temperature-wise. It's pretty cold. So I'm gonna assess the situation. If it's really boggy, I might actually hike back to my car, and because my main point here is to do Timothy Lake, which is a big lake, and there's a lot of other access points. So I would actually drive to a different access point, a different campground, and just focus on the lake now that I've seen Little Crater Lake. So I'm gonna go check. We're here at Little Crater Lake here in the Mount Hood National Forest. Little indeed. There's a bog over there on the right you can walk through with some planks. This is Little Crater Lake. It's a bit famous. It's not looking that great right now, to be honest with you. Keeping it real, it's got kind of a pond, boggy feel. See a million of these little bogs just hiking up in the high country. Nothing particularly special about this that I'm seeing. No, it's a very popular area. Frankly, I'm not sure why. Maybe that sounds terrible, but just being honest, I'm not understanding the big deal of the draw here. It's kind of like a famous landmark. I do know sometimes, so I'm gonna continue to hike. I know sometimes if the sun's hitting it just so, it could kind of get like a blue color. That's probably what it's famous for. But in its natural state, without the sun just so, it's really just a bog, a swamp. And as I said, if you do much alpine high country hiking like I do, you see millions of little tarns left and right. I don't really see anything distinct about that one, other than the fact that it's here, Mile Hood National Forest, and easily accessible. So, my goal today is to do Timothy Lake Loop, and I just failed in my first attempt, but I have other options. My original plan A, was to park at Little Crater Lake as my trailhead, and then to circumnavigate the lake. Well, I got past the lake, started taking these planks through this boggy swamp, which is kind of interesting, and area is completely flooded, like completely flooded. I walked on a few planks that were definitely getting my boots wet up to my ankles, but then the next section was going to be like shin to knee deep, and I was like, you know what? There's other ways to access the Timothy Lake area. If I go through it, I'm going to have to go through it back, so I got to do it twice. So I pulled the ripcord on that approach, and now I'm hiking back to the trailhead, which I'll be at momentarily, and I'm going to actually go find another access point. That's not going to be hard to do. Timothy Lake's huge, and it's got like 7 campgrounds. So I'm just going to go to one of the other campgrounds. This is kind of a side outlet area, so I can go do the whole loop and completely avoid this section.